all the way up there.
Oh, I can shout. So, as
No, because it's being taped, and the tape will not hear you shouting.
got it. Thank you, Esther, for a very inspirational talk. I'm a teacher, teaching undergrad students, and currently they're called Generation Z. And I very much empathize and sympathize with.
Question.
Sorry. Thank you. What advice would you give to the older generation trying to educate the younger generation when there's two different mindsets, and how do you build that relationship of trust to push them?
Yep, let's continue. I'll take a bunch and then we'll see what are the themes. Yeah?
What advice?
Stand up if you don't mind. And you know what? You can say your name.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
Yes, Rachel.
What advice do you have for having a constructive and productive rupture?
You want the productive rupture or you want the productive repair?
Well, but you have a rupture first.
Right. Great. Yeah?
I have a question over here.
Hi, I'm Marie. My question is, what advice would you give about projections at work? If you have a projection where you're become a child around like your boss, siblings around coworkers, and that's affecting your work.
Great question. Can I ask something? Who are the people in this room who consider themselves more shy or introvert? So, any of you, feel free to ask a question. There's all of us, who leave and then wish she had addressed this. I wanted to ask, I didn't, I waited. Any of you who are among those, you're the next person that can ask a question. Yeah, go ahead. Where's the mic?
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Justine, and I would like to know what advice you have for relating to a child when you constantly butt heads with them and you realize you're being controlling and trying to get them to do the things you want to do, but you also want them to be free to be who they are.
How old is the child?
8.
That's the first question. If we are developmental creatures, you do not have the same conversation at 8 and at 12 and further down the line. Yes, last one. Yeah.
Hi, so my name is Rigoberto. How do you end a relationship without causing harm?
How do you end a relationship without causing harm? Beautiful. Okay. I think we have a bunch, right? Is there anything burning? One more. Where is she?
I'm here.
Yeah.
My name is Aminata, and my question is about home, and the idea of recreating home and wanting to feel home everywhere we go.
Yes.
How can we help more people come home within themselves?
Oh, thank you. I wish. Yeah, you can clap when the questions are inspiring. Because it makes you think for the day, and you think, oh, I started my day with such good questions. Much of the time we spend our time thinking way too much about inane shit. All right. The generational, I will simply say this. I think that, but I don't know if this is true, but this is how I experience it. I think, where is the generational question? Yeah, okay. Here's and this goes with the 8-year-old question as well in some way. I think one of the changes that is occurring, and the world, for me, history of the world goes from stages, periods of contraction and periods of expansion, periods of intense creativity and periods where you just feel like, on a global level. This is not just on an individual level. But when the global is like that, so do the people. People start to contract. When you contract, it's like a body. You don't have space in there. There's no air, there's no movement, there's no blood flow. In that state, you become vigilant. In that state, you're more looking towards security than toward adventure. You're more looking towards stability than toward change. This is what's happening in many parts of the world at this moment. And I think that one of the things that changes with that is that what you lose when you go into is the ability to live with ambiguity and complexity. There's just a desperate attempt to simplify everything and to have an answer to everything. And the nice thing about me is that most of the time I can just say, it's a paradox you manage and not a problem you solve. You know, but people want the answer. People, and even for all of you who came to ask for an answer, to live with an answer, live with thoughts, live with a different perspective, live with a conversation that you think you should have, that you've been meaning to have and haven't had. Live with someone you owe some apology to, and it's time to go and do it, rather than fixed principles like this. I think what is missing in the generational moment is that, you know, cancel culture exists today because things are either or, and they are more either or because they are so much more diffuse than they've been in many parts of the world. And so it's too much sometimes for us to tolerate all of that, so we just want to, you know, we come from post-constructivist, postmodern, you know, relativism focus, and now we are back into there is a right and there is a wrong. And this is, I think, the swing toward that. Similarly, the question around the 8-year-old and the power struggle. I think the best thing, you know, there's a zillion ways to deal with that. But what is fascinating about your question is this. Everybody who's ever had a 2-year-old or known one knows that power can come from the bottom up. That's what's interesting, is that you feel basically, you feel inadequate in trying to make the other person do what you want them to do. And as a result, you will often lose control in order to gain control. You see that dance? Right? It's really difficult, you know. And so then there's a dynamic, because a relationship is not what's happening inside of you, it's also what's happening between. And the more you do this, and the more you become rigid and you put your foot down, the more you're actually teaching your kid to become just as rigid as you plus. We co-create. We make the other. What I do makes you do what you do, which is often the opposite of what I actually want. That's the other thing. We draw from the other the very behavior we don't want when we are in a distressed situation. So then you go and you say, with the 8-year-old, you take puppets, or you take the drawings, cutouts, but you take alternative characters, stories. And in that story, I have 2 sons, 23, 26. One of them, for a while. And, you know, and I created this whole story. It's funny that I'm telling this on stage. I don't usually. I created this whole story. It was in a version of a she. But she was one of those who just couldn't keep her mouth shut. She always said the thing that didn't need to be said. And then we created this character, and he and I would talk together about what she could have done differently. You talk in the third person. Lift it from the dyadic stuckness and just bring it into another story where, because you have to understand, neither you nor him like it. That's a given. It's not like you don't like it and he or she is sweet with it. And I think anytime you're stuck, it's about how do you lift yourself, put yourself on a balcony into a meta position and begin to creatively think, how can we deal with this? There was this mother, and she used to just lose it. And then she felt terrible about herself. And then she didn't know if she should apologize, because if she apologized, then it looked like she was weak. But she wanted to be weak, but listen, there always are projections. This is a given. But, I think that you're absolutely, the first thing is this awareness. I react to these people here. When they all sit around the table, I feel like I'm back in my family, and I can't find my seat. Or I wait to be invited when, in fact, this is a place where people don't wait, people just need to show up. But I don't want to show up because da-da-da-da. So the first thing is your own relational self-awareness. What's the story that's being replayed? If you find yourself acting as a kid, there is another person acting as the complementary piece to this. Is it whoever it is. And then sometimes you can go and say, it's so interesting. I am whatever age, years old, when you and I talk, I just start to feel like I become very, 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 very small, you know. And did you ever notice that? Or when you talk, somehow I get quiet. Or when you talk, I just get agitated. Or, you know, you need to have enough of a relationship to say it. But there's a way of saying to people, have you noticed what happens between us? A good observation statement rather than an accusation statement goes a long way. We seem to get into this. What's your thought about that? Now, if they come back and they say, that's because you, because you don't control the whole thing, then you can say, yes, that is true. I do this as well, but I'm wondering, what's your place in this? Do you notice something that happens to you, or is this just all happening to me, which is rarely the case, you know? Ending. Listen, where are you, the ending person? You can end without harm. You often can't end without hurt. It's just hurtful. No, it hurts. It's not hurt. It hurts. It hurts to end, which is overlooked. It's always the focus on the person who is ended. But in fact, it's very painful for some people to end as well. And it's painful because they care. It's painful because it happened to them. It's painful because they know that they will have a better life afterwards than the other. Because they feel guilty, because they've been waiting for so long. You know, of course, the day they do it is not the first time they think about it. So I think that what's really beautiful is you can't take care of the hurt. What you can do is call some friends and say, he's going to need you, she's going to need you. Be around. And then, here's what I want to tell you that I want to take with me from us. Is this an ending professionally or romantically? Which one are we talking about? Romantically. This is what I'm taking with me from us. This is what's going to stay with me forever. This is the stuff that when I remember, I will smile. This is what I hope you take with you from me. This is what I wish for you. And this, I know you can't imagine that it's painful to me to do this, but I do. And you sometimes weep together. And you don't pretend, you know, that the fear about leaving when it's hard is that people want to do it quick, and run because they're so afraid that if they don't do it immediately, they're going to get close and snared again. And just to say, and we will not have any contact afterwards. When you have a tough ending, it's better not to have a contact. And then you tell your partner, have a celebration for you. I think that the ritual of celebrations for the people who are left is really very, very powerful. You bring together a few of your close friends, you bring poems, you bring guitars, and you just sing Heartbreak. You know, because heartbreak is one of the most overlooked grief. And it's not always visible. People go crazy, they act bizarre. And watch the TED Talk of my dear friend and colleague Guy Winch on TED, How to Mend a Broken Heart, or his book. But it's that. And then you really, if you do know the other people, let them know afterwards, because our tendency is to isolate some of us rather than to seek out support. And just tell them, she needs you, he needs you. And then don't check. Don't go checking, because it's hard. And then it needs a clean, sad ending. Last one is home. Home. I think that the reason I like your question is because I've had many homes. I've had more than one home my whole life. Home is people for some of us, not just a physical place. But I think that one thing I can say, let me ask you, how many of you invite people into your home on a regular basis? And how many of you do not? Okay, see, and I say on a regular basis, because I think that one of the things in cities where so many of us live alone, which is the first time in history that so many adults live alone like that, we don't enough bring people into our home. And into our home is often two things: meeting somebody's parents and entering somebody's space. You know, and I think that what helps to create a feeling of home is ritual. There's all kinds of rituals that help us feel that there is a name tag associated with this place. This place signifies me, my existence, my life, my connections, and all of that. I think for many of us in the world that we live in here, that is often more nomadic and unanchored, creating home is really important. Home is also when you call people and you don't just text them, because home is the voice. The voice is the first thing that we hear in utero. There's a reason podcasts have become so important at this particular moment. You know, it's deeply intimate. Somebody's whispering in your ear. Call people, talk to them. That's home. Really, call them. That's a generational divide. I mean, it's, you know, call people. Voice. Voice connects us. Voice is home. Okay, people, that's it for this morning.